My name is Ava Thompson. I'm 28 years old, and I live in Chicago, working as a UX designer for a tech company. Everything started on Thanksgiving last year, the day that was supposed to be the warmest family gathering of the year for any American family. But for me, it turned into the night my life was torn in half. That morning, I left Chicago at 8 a.m., driving my old Honda Civic down I-65 toward Indianapolis. 3 hours on the road, I listened to the familiar Thanksgiving playlist I'd made back in college, from Alice's Restaurant by Arlo Guthrie to Sweet Potato Pie by Ray Charles. I even stopped at a rest area to buy a cheap bottle of red wine to contribute to dinner, thinking at least I'd bring something. Back then, I still had that naive hope that this year would be different, that after years of distance, everyone would be happy to see me home. As I turned into the Fisher suburb of Indianapolis, where my parents live, it was already getting dark early because it was late November. The two-story colonial house of the Thompson family appeared with strings of white LED lights wrapped around the roofline, a large wreath hanging on the front door, and the leftover decorative pumpkins from Halloween. From afar, I could hear the lively laughter echoing out, mixed with the delicious smell of roasting turkey spreading through the cold air. I parked behind a row of SUVs and pickup trucks, all much newer than my car, then grabbed the bottle of wine and walked up to the porch. I opened the door and walked in without knocking, like every year. And right at that moment, I knew something was wrong. Inside the house was packed with people. 33 relatives, including the kids, were crammed into the living room and the open-plan dining room. The main dining table was extended to its fullest, with several folding tables added in the corners, plastic chairs borrowed from the church lined up everywhere. Everyone was dressed nicely, men in button-up shirts, women in sweater dresses and holiday cardigans. The kids were running around in cute turkey-printed sweaters. The smells of food filled the air. Golden roasted turkey, honey-glazed sweet potatoes, cornbread, homemade cranberry sauce, and at least 3 kinds of pie waiting on the kitchen counter. But when I stepped in, the whole room seemed to pause for a second. And then, everything continued as if I didn't exist. No hugs. No, Avery, you're here, that I'd imagined the whole drive. Just a few polite nods from distant cousins, the kind of nod you give a stranger cutting in line at Starbucks. Aunt Cheryl glanced at me once, then went back to telling about her son just getting accepted to Purdue. Uncle Rick lightly patted my shoulder, like greeting a delivery person, then continued talking about the Colts game. Even Grandma Ruth, the grandmother who had spoiled me the most since I was little, only gave a tired smile from her armchair before turning to ask Maddie how school was going. I stood there for a few seconds, the bottle of wine in my hand suddenly feeling heavy. Then I found my own seat. The main table was full. The best seats were reserved for the older couples and the most favored grandkids. I quietly pulled a plastic chair at the kids' table in the far corner of the room, next to some young cousins and 2 aunts I'd only met a few times in my life. No one told me to sit elsewhere. No one offered their seat. No one asked, was the drive tiring or how's work in Chicago? The food started being passed around. Platters of sliced turkey, bowls of buttery mashed potatoes, baskets of hot rolls. Everyone laughed and chatted lively, passing plates to each other, praising my mom, Laura, for cooking so wonderfully as always. But not a single plate was passed my way. I sat there, hands in my lap, watching everyone eat without anyone bothering to ask, Avery, do you want dark meat or white? I stood up myself to get a paper plate from the kitchen counter, scooping some leftover food. When I returned, a kid had already taken my chair to play games on an iPad. I ended up standing in the corner eating alone, leaning against the wall, watching my family, or what used to be my family, living in a world where I no longer had a place. Throughout the meal, they talked about everything except me. Maddie, my older sister, 32, a guidance counselor at a well-regarded elementary school, was applauded by the whole family when she shared she was about to be nominated for Counselor of the Year in the district. My dad, Mark, bragged about his landscaping and snow removal company just signing a big contract with a new shopping center, meaning more new trucks this winter. My mom, Laura, a senior mortgage loan officer at a regional bank, smiled radiantly as she talked about the Florida trip the whole extended family had just booked for spring, thanks to smart saving and investing kids. Everyone nodded approvingly. No one asked me about the big project I'd just finished at work, how my boss praised me for a redesign that boosted user retention by 40%, or how I'd finally paid off my student loans. In their eyes, I was still the artsy one, the one who chose an unstable career, the one who didn't follow the safe path like Maddie or what my parents had planned. I sat there, amid the laughter and the clinking of forks and knives, feeling like a ghost in the house I grew up in. The bottle of wine I'd brought stayed untouched on the kitchen counter. And then, the worst part was still to come. When everyone finished the main course and started waiting for pie, my mom stood up, lightly tapping her wine glass with a spoon, the familiar signal for the annual Thanksgiving Words of Gratitude speech. I thought she would say something like, "We are so blessed to have a roof over our heads, health, and each other." She usually said that. She would mention my dad for working hard, Maddie for being the family pride, Grandma Ruth for getting through the past year despite her health. Maybe she'd say something short about me, like, "And Avery is busy with work in Chicago," enough to prove I still belonged. But not this year. My mom smiled, the professional smile she used when presenting to mortgage clients at the bank. She set her glass down, walked slowly toward the dining room wall, the wall I jokingly called the Thompson Family Museum since I was little. Dozens of framed photos were arranged chronologically. My parents' 1992 wedding photo, pictures of my sister and me as babies, a summer vacation at Lake Michigan when I was 8 with my crooked smile from a missing front tooth, Maddie's high school graduation with her homecoming queen crown, and my own college graduation from IU Bloomington in cream gown, smiling brightly between my parents. She stopped in front of the frames that included me. The entire room went dead silent. Only the crackling fireplace and the breathing of 33 people trying to figure out what was happening. My mom raised her hand, gently unhooking the first frame, the family of 4 in Florida when I was 15. She held it for a second, as if looking at it one last time, then dropped it into the large plastic trash bin conveniently placed right next to the table. The sound of breaking glass rang out sharply in the silence. Then the second frame, me and Maddie hugging on Christmas when I was 10, into the trash. The third frame, my high school graduation, me in red gown holding the diploma, parents proudly on both sides, into the trash. The fourth, fifth, sixth. She did it slowly, systematically, like clearing out an old closet. Each drop made the glass shatter sound sharper than the last. No one dared speak. Grandma Ruth covered her mouth. One young cousin started sniffling, but his mom quickly hushed him. When the wall was bare except for protruding nails and a few frames without me, my mom turned back, dusted her hands as if finishing a long overdue chore. She looked straight at me, for the first time all evening, and said clearly, calmly, loud enough for all 33 people to hear without shouting, "Avery has grown up. It's time she takes responsibility for her own life. We've invested a lot, time, love, and money in both our children. But some investments don't pay off. They just become long-term financial burdens. Today, with the whole family gathered, I think it's time we are honest." She paused a moment, letting the words sink in. I didn't want to say this in front of everyone, but Avery has chosen to live separately, chosen an unstable career, chosen to distance herself from family. So she should also choose to repay what the family has spent on her for the past 28 years. The room was dead silent. I felt blood rushing to my ears, but strangely, I didn't cry. I just sat there, looking at my mother, the woman who taught me to tie my shoes, who sat by my bed through high fever nights in elementary school, now turning me into a line item on a balance sheet. My dad, Mark, usually silent in moments like this, spoke up this time. He stood, placed both hands on the table, voice low but firm. "She's right. We paid for her college, over $100,000 after scholarships. Braces, $15,000. Car insurance from 16 to 23. Phone bills, clothes, summer vacations. We never kept count because she was our daughter. But now she's an adult, has a job, chose to live far away. So she should repay. We'll sit down and calculate the details. It's only fair. I looked around. No one would meet my eyes. A few stared at their pie plates. Aunt Cheryl took a big sip of wine. Uncle Rick pretended to be busy with his phone. Maddie, my sister, sat quietly, but I saw the corner of her mouth twitch slightly, as if she had known the script in advance. Then Maddie stood up. She was wearing a red sweater dress, perfect for the holiday, hair in a neat high bun, looking just like Mom in her younger days. She didn't look at me right away. She looked at Mom, then Dad, as if waiting for the final cue. When Mom nodded slightly, Maddie turned to me, pointing toward the front door. Slow, clear, without hesitation. Avery, I think you should go home. Today is a family holiday. We need space to enjoy it without unnecessary tension. Her voice was gentle, the kind of school counselor voice she used with troubled students, polite, firm, leaving no room for argument. I looked at her for a long time. This was the sister who played Barbie with me in the garage, who taught me how to do eyeliner before prom, who video called me sobbing when I moved to Chicago because she missed me so much. Now she stood there, pointing me out the door like kicking out an uninvited guest who'd overstayed. No one spoke up for me. Not one person. I slowly stood. The plastic chair scraped on the hardwood floor. I didn't grab my bag right away. I looked at each face, one by one. The relatives I'd loved, sent Christmas gifts to, driven home to visit every holiday. No one looked back. Only the sound of breaking glass still echoed in my head from the frames thrown away. I bent down to pick up my purse from under the chair, put on my coat, and walked to the door. No running, no crying, not a single word. When I opened the front door, November cold rushed in, carrying the smell of dead leaves and neighbors' fireplace smoke. I stepped onto the porch, gently closed the door behind me. The lock clicked softly, like a period at the end of a sentence. I stood alone on the steps for a few seconds, looking at the white LED lights still twinkling cheerfully on the roofline. Through the glass, I saw people inside starting to talk again, though quieter than before. Someone turned on early Christmas music. Someone cut pie. I walked to my car, started the engine, and drove out of the Fisher suburb without looking in the rearview mirror. Those 3 hours back to Chicago that night, I didn't play music. I just drove, hands tight on the wheel, mind strangely clear. They thought they had just cut me out of the family. They had no idea that night was when I began the journey to drag them out of the darkness they'd hidden for so long. I left Fisher's around 9 p.m. I-65 North was pitch black, only truck headlights and a few other cars passing in the cold November night. I didn't turn on music, didn't open the radio, didn't call anyone. Just the steady roll of tires on the road and my heart pounding in my chest. My hands shook lightly on the wheel, but my mind was strangely clear, as if someone had thrown a bucket of ice water on me, making everything painfully sharp. Those 3 hours were the longest and shortest of my life. I kept replaying every moment, the glass shattering as Mom threw the frames, Dad's even voice listing expenses like reading a repair bill, Maddie's cold pointing toward the door. I waited for the pain to hit, for tears to come, for me to scream in the car like I had during past arguments with my parents. But no tears, just a cold, clear feeling. They no longer saw me as a daughter. I had been reduced to a debt to be erased. When I turned into Wicker Park, Chicago, it was nearly midnight. The neighborhood still had flickering lights from a few late-open bars and restaurants. I parked in front of my 5-story walk-up, turned off the engine, sat in the dark a few more minutes. My 3rd-floor apartment I'd rented for 3 years was only 650 square feet.
Living room doubling his bedroom, tiny kitchen, balcony big enough for 2 folding chairs.
No garage, no backyard, no wall full of family photos. But it was my home, the only place in the world that truly belonged to me. I carried my bag up the stairs, opened the door, turned on the light. The morning coffee smell still lingered. I dropped the bag on the floor, took off my coat, kicked my boots into the corner, then went straight to the small dining table by the window where I kept my laptop. I opened it, the screen glowing in the dark room. No main light, just the blue glow illuminating my face. I opened a new Word document, blank white. I placed the cursor in the middle and typed one line, font size 48, bold, all caps. This is no longer about emotions. This is a crime. I stared at it for a long time, then saved the file as Thanksgiving 2024. Then closed the document, but didn't shut down the laptop. I sat there, looking out the window, letting my mind go back in time. For the first time, truly looking at my family without the filter of love or obligation. The Thompson family on Instagram looked perfect. My parents, Mark and Laura, always posted on cue. Whole family in matching sweaters in front of the Christmas tree, Florida vacation pics with caption, "Family First," Maddie receiving an award at school with hundreds of likes, and my comment, "Proud sister here." They had over 2,000 followers, mostly church friends, co-workers, dad and mom's clients. Anyone looking would think we were the typical Middle West upper middle class family. Nice house, good kids, always smiling in photos. But reality was different. From childhood, I knew I wasn't like Maddie. She was the golden child, straight A's, obedient, chose education, a career my parents called stable, meaningful. I loved drawing, design, spending hours on Photoshop instead of studying accounting or nursing like Mom suggested. When I said I wanted to study communication design at IU Bloomington, Mom smirked. "Art career? Are you sure? That's not stable." Dad added, "Real jobs give steady paychecks, insurance, retirement, not daydreaming in front of a computer." Every choice I made was seen as a financial mistake. When I moved to Chicago instead of staying in Indianapolis like Maddie, Mom said, "You're making it hard on yourself." When I turned down working for Dad's landscaping company, he said, "You don't want the family legacy?" They never said it directly, but I always felt like the failed investment, the child who didn't yield profit like my sister. And now, after that night, everything suddenly became clear. They didn't just disapprove of my choices. They had turned me into a negative number on their books long ago. I stood up, made a black coffee even though it was late. I returned to the table, opened the laptop again. I didn't text friends, didn't post a crying story on Instagram, didn't call anyone to vent. I just sat there in the screen light and started recalling every small detail I'd overlooked before. The times Mom asked for my social security number to help with taxes. Bank letters sent to the old house that Mom said, "I'll handle." Strange FICO drops I thought were system errors. That night, I decided I would no longer be a victim. I would find out what they had done with my name, my credit, my life in the years I was busy trying to prove I was worthy. And when I found out, I would make them pay. Not with tears or begging, but with truth, with law, with the light they feared most. I sat there in my dimly lit Wicker Park apartment, the cold black coffee beside me, laptop screen the only light. It was nearly 2 a.m., but I wasn't sleepy. The line, "This is no longer about emotions. This is a crime," still open in Word, a reminder not to turn back. I started digging through everything money-related in the family, small details I'd always ignored because I thought it was just Mom caring for me. It started freshman year of college when I moved to Bloomington. I was 18, first time away from home, fumbling with allowance and scholarship money to the point of nearly overdrafting a few times. One Sunday night, Mom FaceTimed, voice sweet as usual. "I see you're struggling with money. Let me help? We'll open a joint checking account. I'll transfer monthly living expenses. I'll monitor so you don't get overdraft fees. Just temporary until you're used to it." I agreed immediately.
Back then, I just thought Mom was being a good mother. We went to the Chase branch near home in Indianapolis. Mom filled out all the paperwork. I just signed. The account was in both names, Laura Thompson and Avery Thompson, joint account with right of survivorship. Mom installed the banking app on my phone, saved the passwords, and said, "Don't change anything so I can transfer quickly." I smiled, thinking it was convenient. After graduation, I moved to Chicago, opened my own account at Bank of America, transferred all salary there. I thought I was completely financially independent. I paid rent myself, insurance myself, built credit with a Capital One secured card where I deposited $300 for a small limit. I even called Mom. "I closed the joint account, Mom. I can handle it myself now." Mom laughed over the phone. "Good, but let me keep it a while just in case."
And your mail still goes to our house for safety. I'll forward it. I didn't object. I was swamped with my first job, deadlines piling up. Didn't want to argue over small things. But strange signs started appearing sporadically, and I convinced myself nothing serious. First were bank letters from unfamiliar places sent to my parents' address that Mom forwarded via photo. One from Chase saying, "Thank you for your recent application." I thought spam, threw away. Then Discover card with pre-approved offer. I hadn't applied, so ignored. Once my FICO on Credit Karma dropped suddenly over 80 points, from 740 to 662. I panicked, called Experian. They said, "New account inquiry recently." I checked, no new accounts under my name. I thought system error, or I applied for something and forgot. Busy with deadlines, I let it slide. Then once Mom called asking, "Do you need me to help consolidate student debt? I know some low-interest programs." I declined because I'd refinanced myself. Mom laughed. "Just asking. I'm the expert after all." All those small pieces, now after Thanksgiving night, suddenly became crystal clear. I opened the browser, went to annualcreditreport.com, the official government site for free credit reports from the 3 major bureaus once a year. I filled in name, birth date, social security number, current Chicago address. I checked all 3, Experian, TransUnion, Equifax. While waiting for verification, I made another coffee, heart beating faster. 10 minutes later, 3 PDF files downloaded. I opened Experian first. First page is normal, my student loans, the Capital One secured I opened myself, old scores. Then inquiries and accounts page, I stopped breathing. 5 revolving credit accounts I'd never seen. Chase Freedom Unlimited, opened March 2021, $12,000 limit, 9,800 used. Discover It, opened November 2021, $8,500 limit, nearly maxed. American Express Gold, opened June 2022. The card I knew required high credit and stable income. City Premier, opened February 2023. Bank of America Customized Cash Rewards, opened January 2024. Next, 2 personal loans. $15,000 from Lending Club, opened 2022. $25,000 from SoFi, last year. And the worst, a home equity line of credit, $50,000 in my name linked to my parents' Fisher's address, opened May 2024, right when Dad bragged about buying 2 new trucks for the landscaping company. Billing address for all accounts, my parents' suburban Fisher's house. Contact phone on most accounts, my mom's cell. I opened TransUnion and Equifax for cross-check. Same list, no discrepancies. I leaned back in the chair, arms limp. No screaming, no banging the table, just a cold feeling spreading from chest to fingertips. They had used my name, my social security number, info from the old joint account I thought closed, to open a series of loans and cards. The money definitely didn't flow to Chicago, to my small apartment. It flowed to Indianapolis, the Florida trip they bragged about, Dad's new trucks, the kitchen remodel Mom posted on Instagram last summer with caption, "Dream Kitchen finally done." I closed my eyes, breathed deep, then opened a new folder on desktop named Evidence. I dragged all 3 PDFs in. I screenshotted every page with strange accounts. I opened notes, started a timeline, opened dates, limits, current balances, addresses, and phones. I worked until dawn broke outside the window, garbage truck sounds below.
When the sun rose over Chicago on Black Friday, I had clear evidence. My mom, a senior mortgage loan officer with over 20 years' experience, had committed large-scale identity theft and fraud in her daughter's name. And I knew I wouldn't let it slide. This was no longer a family matter. This was federal crime. And I would be the one to turn on the light.
When the Black Friday sun rose over Chicago, I had 3 credit report files full of accounts that weren't mine. The feeling was no longer anger, but sharp focus. I knew I had to act immediately before they had time to erase traces or open more in my name. I opened ftc.gov, the official Federal Trade Commission site for identity theft. I went to identitytheft.gov, the step-by-step online reporting tool. I filled everything: name, current Chicago address, social security number, detailed description of how the perpetrator abused, close family member with access to personal info from old joint bank account and forwarded mail. I listed every strange account: Chase card number, Discover, Amex, 2 personal loans, and the $50,000 HELOC, in my name but linked to parents' address. I attached screenshots from 3 credit reports, photos of old bank letters Mom sent me, and my hand-drawn timeline in notes. I checked, I want to file an official identity theft report, and submitted. The site generated a ready affidavit. I printed, signed by hand, scanned, and uploaded. In less than an hour, I had an official FTC identity theft report with its own case number. That's the strongest legal document proving I'm a victim, used to dispute debts and require banks to investigate. Next was immediate credit protection. I went to Experian.com, logged in with personal info, selected Place Extended Fraud Alert. Because I had the FTC report, I qualified for a 7-year extended fraud alert, meaning anyone trying to open new accounts in my name must verify directly by phone or in person. I did the same for TransUnion and Equifax. All 3 bureaus confirmed in minutes. Fraud alert active. Then, credit freeze, complete lockdown. I froze at all 3 bureaus. No one, not even me, can open new accounts without unfreezing first with a unique PIN. I also went to checksystems.com, the reporting bureau for bank accounts, and froze there too, to prevent new checking or savings. When done, I breathed a sigh of relief. For the first time in years, I felt I had regained some control. They couldn't do more without being blocked immediately. But protection alone wasn't enough. I needed to expose this, not for public revenge, but to warn others and create quiet pressure. As a UX designer, I knew how to tell stories with visuals better than words. I opened Figma, the design tool I use daily at work. I created a new project, named the file family_ID_theft_infographic. I chose a neutral palette, grays, dark blue, light red for warnings without being too shocking. Standard social media sizes, 1080 by 1080 and 1080 by 1350 for stories. I designed a simple but professional infographic, divided into 4 main parts. Top, large title, How Family Members Can Commit Identity Theft and How to Spot It Early. Part 2, Common Methods, bullet list with illustrative icons. Joint accounts from youth not fully closed. Financial mail still sent to old address. Relative keeping social security number and birth date. Helping consolidate debt or build credit without showing paperwork. Part 3. Red flags you might miss. Real signs. Strange bank letters sent to old address. Sudden unexplained FICO drop. Hard inquiries on credit report from banks you didn't apply to. New accounts appearing with address or phone not yours. Bottom part. What to do immediately. Clear action steps. Pull free credit reports at annualcreditreport.com. File identity theft report at identitytheft.gov. Place fraud alert and freeze credit at 3 major bureaus. Contact banks to dispute each account. Consult attorney if needed. At the very bottom, I added a small line. This happened to someone I know. It can happen to you. No names, no personal photos, no tags. Just clean, readable, shareable information. I exported high-quality PNG, saved as ordinary file name creditsafetyguide.png. Now it was time to put it out there. I created a new Reddit account, not linked to my main, random username like you throwaway credit help 2024. I went to the two biggest subreddits for this, r/personal finance and r/identity theft. First post on r/identity theft. Title: Family member used my identity for years without me knowing. Here's what I learned and what I did. Body: I told briefly, completely anonymous. A close relative with access to old financial info opened multiple credit cards, personal loans, and HELOC in my name. I only discovered when credit reports showed numerous accounts with their address. I attached the infographic, explained steps I took, FTC report, fraud alert, freeze, and asked if anyone had similar experiences. Second post on r/personal finance, similar, but more financial focus. How to protect yourself from intra-family financial abuse. I took a deep breath, hit post on both. Then opened LinkedIn, using my real account but in educational mode. I reposted the infographic with a more professional caption. As a UX designer, I often think about how to make complex information accessible. Recently, I learned firsthand how identity theft can happen within families, something far more common than we think. Here's a quick guide on red flags and immediate steps. Sharing and hope it helps someone spot it early. #personal finance, #credit education, #identity theft. No company tag, no personal tags, no story details. Just an educational post. Done. I shut down the laptop, lay on the sofa without changing clothes. For the first time since Thanksgiving, I fell asleep without dreaming of breaking glass. The next morning when I woke, my phone was buzzing nonstop with notifications. The Reddit posts had exploded. The one on r/identity theft hit the subreddit top. Over 2,000 upvotes overnight. The r/personal finance one, nearly 3,000 upvotes and cross-posted to r/personal finance Canada and r/credit. Comments flooded in. Someone wrote, "My dad did exactly the same. Opened credit cards in my name to pay gambling debt. I found out when denied a home loan. Congrats on freezing credit in time." Another, "My mom helped build my credit by adding me as authorized user on her card, then maxed out $30K. I had to sue to remove it."
Hundreds of similar stories. Children whose parents, siblings, even grandparents used SSN to open cards, loans, buy cars. Many thank the infographic for being easier to understand than official FTC guides. Some asked for original file to print and stick on fridge. Some tagged friends, "Read this. I think your mom is doing this to you." Reading it was both comforting and horrifying. Turns out I wasn't alone. This was so common, there was an entire community just to share the pain. LinkedIn was gentler. My post had over 400 likes, mostly from design colleagues and finance people. A few private messages. "Thanks, really helpful. I'll check my kid's credit now." No one guessed it was my story, exactly as I wanted. While scrolling comments, a new Reddit DM notification appeared. From U. Kelly Midwest CPA. "This infographic is beautiful."
Layout, font pairing, icon usage, I recognize the style immediately. "Avery, it's you, right?" I froze. Only a few people in the world knew I often used Inter typeface system paired with SF Pro for titles, and how I aligned icons on an 8px grid. One of them was Aunt Kelly, my mom's older sister, freelance accountant living in Carmel, just 20 minutes from my parents. I replied briefly, "It's me. How did you know?" Reply came instantly. I saw it on LinkedIn first, then someone shared on Reddit. I clicked the infographic and thought, only Avery makes things this clean. We need to talk privately. Can I call on Signal? Safer. I downloaded Signal, the encrypted messaging app I'd never used, and sent my number. The call came 10 minutes later. Aunt Kelly's voice sounded tired, but not surprised. "Avery, I'm sorry for what happened Thanksgiving night. I was there. I saw everything." I wanted to speak up, but I was scared. "Now seeing your post, I know you're talking about Laura." I stayed silent, waiting for her to continue. I've been having strange credit issues for years, too. Debt collection letters from banks I've never borrowed from. Credit score dropping without reason. Laura once helped me consolidate debt after my divorce, said lower interest. I signed papers because I trusted my sister. Now I suspect maybe it's not just you. I briefly told her what I found in my credit report. 5 credit cards, 2 personal loans, $50K HELOC in my name but parents' address. She sighed. I'm afraid I have a similar HELOC. I'll pull my credit report today. If true, we need to talk more. We agreed to follow up after she had results. I hung up, looked out the window. Chicago was bustling on Black Friday, crowds shopping.
I sat here with an evidence folder growing thicker and the only relative willing to listen. The post had spread. The family was panicking, and for the first time, light was shining into the darkest corners. After hanging up with Aunt Kelly on Signal, I sat still in the apartment for a long time, staring at the dark phone screen. This was the first time since Thanksgiving night that I felt I wasn't alone in this. Aunt Kelly, the one I'd always called Big Aunt, had always been slightly out of place in family photos. She divorced early, worked freelance accounting, no kids, often sat at the table corner during gatherings. Now she was the only one in the family willing to admit something was wrong. 2 days later, on a cold Saturday afternoon in Chicago, Kelly called back. This time a long call, over an hour. She had done exactly what I instructed, pulled credit reports from all 3 bureaus, read every line carefully. Her voice on the other end sounded like she'd run a marathon. Avery, oh God, you're right. It's not just you. I am too. She told details. 6 years ago, after divorcing Uncle Ted, Kelly fell into debt. Several maxed credit cards, high interest, plus lawyer fees. Laura, her younger sister, already a senior mortgage loan officer, offered help. I was so worried about you, Laura told Kelly then. Let me refinance your house, consolidate all card debt into one lower interest loan. I do this for a living. I know how to make it look good on paper. Just sign where I mark. Kelly, exhausted emotionally and financially, agreed. She signed stacks of papers without reading carefully, trusting her sister completely. Laura brought a thick document packet, said, "This will lower monthly payments. You'll breathe easier." Kelly signed. Laura took them to submit. But what Kelly didn't know, and only discovered this week pulling credit reports, was that in those papers, Laura had slipped in a second home equity line of credit, HELOC, on Kelly's house, $75,000 limit. The account was opened in Kelly's name, but billing address and contact phone were Laura's. Money drawn from the HELOC never went to Kelly's account. Instead, it flowed straight to my parents' joint account. Kelly also found 2 additional cards opened in her name, one Bank of America, one Citi, total $28,000 limit, nearly maxed. Transactions, building materials at Home Depot, contractor payments for kitchen remodel, even a large transfer to Dad's landscaping company memoed equipment purchase. Those strange debt letters I've gotten over the years, Kelly said, voice shaking. Laura always said, don't worry, bank error, I'll call and fix. I foolishly believed her. Now I understand. She never fixed anything. She was just covering. I told her details of what I found in my name. 5 credit cards, 2 personal loans, $50,000 HELOC in my name, but tied to parents' address. We started piecing it together like amateur detectives over the phone. I opened a new Google sheet, shared the link via Signal. We built a timeline together. Left column dates, right column events. March 2021, Chase Freedom Unlimited opened in my name. Same month, Dad posted Facebook photo bragging about 2 new industrial mowers for the company. November 2021, Discover opened in my name. Mom posted Instagram story from Colorado ski trip, caption, family getaway, so needed. June 2022, first HELOC opened in Kelly's name. That summer, parents fully remodeled kitchen and backyard. Mom posted constantly with hashtag #DreamHome. February 2023, $25,000 personal loan in my name. Dad bought brand new Ford F-350. Photo next to truck captioned, new addition to the fleet. May 2024, second HELOC in my name,
$50,000. Parents booked 10-day Florida trip for extended family, bragged about business class tickets. Every large outflow from our credit matched exactly a major upgrade in my parents' life. New vehicles, nicer house, luxury vacations, business expansion. While Kelly and I, the ones whose names were on the accounts, never saw a dime. Kelly added one detail that chilled me. A few years ago, when Grandma Ruth sold her old house in Broad Ripple to move into an assisted living community, Laura was the only one handling all financial paperwork.
Grandma gave Laura power of attorney because you're the money expert in the family. The sale proceeds should have been enough for Grandma to live comfortably forever. But in reality, her account kept dwindling without explanation. Laura always managed it. And whenever Grandma asked, Laura said, "Facility fees are high. Inflation. Don't worry." "I suspected," Kelly said quietly. "Maybe Ruth, too." We were silent a long time on the phone. Then Kelly asked, "What do you plan next?" I answered, "I filed FTC report, frozen credit, disputing each account. I'll find a consumer rights and financial abuse attorney. If you want, we can do it together. More victims, stronger evidence." Kelly sighed. "I need time to think. This is my sister, but I can't pretend anymore. Send me everything you have. I'll scan all old papers Laura ever brought over." We hung up, promising to call again in a few days. I closed the laptop, stood to open the window, letting cold December wind rush in. Chicago outside was preparing for Christmas. Twinkling lights, pedestrians with shopping bags. And I had just discovered that the flashy Christmas gifts my parents bragged about for years might have been paid with my and Aunt Kelly's financial futures. This was no longer just my story. This was a pattern, a system Laura and Mark had built over years, using relatives as secret money sources to maintain the perfect family image. And now, with Aunt Kelly on my side, the first wall of silence had cracked. 3 weeks after Thanksgiving, when Chicago was blanketed in snow and everyone started hanging Christmas lights, I got a text from Maddie. Her number was still saved as Maddie Sis Heart, the heart emoji I'd added in college.
I almost deleted it, but before I could, the message appeared. "Avery, I know you're angry, but we need to meet. Just us sisters. Do you have time? I'm in Broad Ripple this weekend. Meet at 20 Tap, 3 p.m. Saturday." Broad Ripple was the lively neighborhood near my parents' house in Indianapolis, full of indie bars and coffee shops. 20 Tap was where we used to hang in high school. Great craft beer, good burgers, and an old corner sofa private enough for real talk without eavesdropping. I hesitated 2 days. Part of me wanted to refuse outright. Part was curious. Why now did she want to meet after pointing me out the door in front of 33 relatives? Finally, I replied briefly, "Okay, 3 p.m. That Saturday, I drove back to Indianapolis for the first time since Thanksgiving night. Light snow fell on the highway, radio playing old Christmas songs. I wore a black sweater, jeans, no makeup, didn't want to look like I was trying. 20 Tap was the same. Exposed brick walls, warm string lights, smell of beer and fries everywhere. Maddie was already at our familiar corner sofa, wearing a red turtleneck sweater, hair in a low ponytail, dark circles clear under her eyes. On the table were 2 beers, one dark porter she liked, one light pale ale I used to drink. She stood when she saw me, arms open for a hug, but I just nodded and sat opposite. She lowered her arms, sat down, pushed the pale ale toward me. "Still drink this?" I didn't answer, just took a sip. Maddie took a deep breath, started. "I'm sorry about Thanksgiving night. I shouldn't have done that. Pointing you out the door in front of everyone was wrong. I know how much it hurt you." Her voice was soft, sounded sincere, but I waited for the next part, the one I knew was coming. "But you have to understand, our family was under a lot of stress. Dad's company struggling with inflation, Mom under pressure at the bank with new strict regulations. Everyone was tired. You leaving in the middle made it worse." I set my beer down, looked straight at her. "So it's my fault for leaving when kicked out of the house I grew up in, after Mom erased me from the wall photos and called me a financial burden?" Maddie looked down,
fiddled with her glass. No, not like that. I just meant everyone didn't mean to hurt you that much. I pulled a thick craft paper folder from my bag, placed it on the table between the beers. This isn't about emotional hurt anymore, Maddie. This is evidence. I opened the folder, pushed it toward her. Inside were printed credit reports from all 3 bureaus, all strange accounts highlighted yellow. 5 credit cards, 2 personal loans, $50,000 HELOC. Billing addresses and phones all pointed to parents' house. I also printed emails Aunt Kelly forwarded. Mom's 2022 email to Kelly saying, "Don't worry about that dead letter. Clerical error. I'll fix." Maddie picked up each page, read, face gradually paling. She read slowly, as if looking for reasons to dismiss. This is just Mom helping you build credit. She does that, so you'll have higher scores for buying a house later. I gave a short laugh. Build credit by opening cards in my name, maxing them, sending bills to parents' house? Maddie, I didn't receive a single dollar from these. Where do you think the money went? She was silent a long time, eyes fixed on the HELOC highlight. Then she said quietly, almost whispering, "Mom helped me a few times too," she admitted. When she graduated and bought her first Honda CR-V, Mom said, "Let me refinance the car for you, lower interest." She signed papers without reading carefully. Later, Mom added her as authorized user on several of Mom's cards to build credit. She thought it was normal in family. Then once, Mom opened a secondary card in her name to pay off furniture in installments when she moved. She never saw bills. Mom said, "I'll handle." "I didn't think much," Maddie said, voice faltering. "I was busy teaching, parent meetings, students. Mom said she could handle. I trusted." I pushed another paper toward her, the timeline Aunt Kelly and I built. Account opening dates matched exactly Dad's new vehicles, Mom's new kitchen, big vacations. Maddie looked at the timeline, eyes widening. Then she remembered something, face going white. "Grandma Ruth," she told. 3 years ago, when Grandma sold her old Broad Ripple house to move into a high-end assisted living community, Laura was the only one handling the transaction. Mom convinced Grandma to sign power of attorney so I can handle paperwork quickly. Sale proceeds, over $450,000 after tax, should have let Grandma live comfortably forever, but in reality, her account kept shrinking. Every time Maddie asked, Mom said facility fees are high, plus supplemental health insurance. Grandma now had to move to a cheaper place, and Mom said, "It's the market." "I thought it was strange," Maddie said, voice shaking. "But every time I asked, Mom got angry, saying I was ungrateful. I was afraid to upset Mom, so I stopped." She looked at me, eyes red. "Avery, if what you're saying is true, it's not just you and Aunt Kelly. Maybe Grandma, too." I nodded. "Aunt Kelly and I are gathering evidence. I'll meet an attorney next week. If you want truth, you can help. Send any emails, texts, papers related to Mom and money." Maddie sat still, arms around her cold beer. She didn't cry, but I saw her wavering, the good daughter shell she'd built for years cracking. "I need time," she finally said. "I don't want to believe Mom could do this, but I'll look for old emails. If I find anything, I'll send you." We sat a few more minutes, saying nothing. Outside the window, snow fell thicker. When standing to leave, Maddie hugged me this time, an awkward, short hug. I didn't hug back, but didn't push away either. Driving back to Chicago that night, I knew. Maddie wasn't fully on my side yet, but she had started doubting. And once doubt is planted, it grows, like the snow falling outside, quietly covering everything. Late January, Chicago was in the biggest winter storm, snow falling thick outside office windows, blanketing the entire loop. I was at my desk on the 28th floor, AirPods in, focused on finishing wireframes for a bank app redesign project, ironically, when the internal phone rang. Receptionist slacked me. "Avery, there's a woman at front desk saying she's your mom, wants to see you a moment. Name Laura Thompson. Looks intense." I froze. My company office was modern open space, glass walls, security cameras everywhere. I'd never brought parents here, never even given detailed floor address. Mom must have dug from old company email I'd sent home when starting. I replied, "Let her up, but I'll meet in main lobby area, not private meeting room." I stood, added a cardigan,
took several deep breaths, then took the elevator down to main lobby. My mom stood there, in the bright space with white leather sofas and large plants. She wore her best navy blazer, the one for big clients, hair perfectly styled, makeup flawless despite sub-zero outside. She held a brown leather folder, smiling broadly at the receptionist as if this was just a friendly visit. When she saw me, she walked quickly, arms open for a hug. "Avery, sweetheart, I miss you so much." I stopped 2 steps away, didn't move closer. She lowered her arms, smile faltering a second, then returning. "Can we talk a bit? I drove from Indianapolis, nearly 4 hours in snow." I glanced around. A few colleagues getting coffee, security cameras recording clearly. I nodded toward the sofa row in the lobby corner. "We can sit here, no need for private room." Mom didn't like it, I saw from the brief frown, but she sat, placed the folder on the glass coffee table. She started with the familiar, sweet voice. "I'm sorry about Thanksgiving night. Things got too heated. Everyone tired. I said things I didn't mean. I never meant to hurt you. You're my daughter." I didn't respond, just waited. She continued, voice softening. "I know you posted some things online. I saw the infographic. People are talking. My colleagues asked. I need to know what you've said about our family." I looked straight at her. "I said nothing about family. I posted an educational infographic about family identity theft. No names, no locations, no tags. It's public information. Anyone can share." Mom looked down a bit, then up, voice turning worried, the kind I knew was acting. "But you also filed some report with the government, right? I heard someone called the bank asking about old loans. Avery, do you realize what you're doing? You're destroying my career." "I've worked here over 20 years. I'm senior officer. I have reputation. If this spreads..." She paused, waiting for my reaction. I pulled a thin folder from my bag, the evidence summary I'd prepared for the attorney next week. I placed it on the table, gently pushed toward her. "This is what I found in my credit report. 5 credit cards I didn't open. 2 personal loans I didn't sign. A $50,000 HELOC in my name, but bills sent to parents' house. Phone is yours. All transactions flow to you and Dad's accounts. Right when Dad bought new trucks, you remodeled the kitchen. You went to Florida." I pointed to each highlighted line. "I also have emails you sent Aunt Kelly saying, 'Don't worry about that debt letter. Clerical error. I'll fix.' Aunt Kelly just pulled her credit report. She has a similar HELOC in her name she never knew about." Mom looked at the folder, hands slightly shaking, but quickly regaining composure. She pushed it back, voice lower, colder. "You don't understand how this industry works. I did it to help you kids build credit, so buying houses later is easier. I know how to structure loans to look good on paper. No one was hurt. I paid bills on time. This is how families help each other." I gave a small laugh. First time in the meeting. "Help by forging signatures? By drawing money without telling? You think that's help?" She leaned forward, voice urgent whisper. "Avery, you're my daughter. We don't take each other to court. We don't let outsiders into family business. You want clean credit? I'll fix it. I'll make a few calls, move things around, everything disappears. But you have to withdraw the FTC report. Take down the post, tell whoever you talked to it was a misunderstanding." She placed her hand on mine. I pulled away. "No." Just one word, but clear. Mom stiffened. The smile vanished completely. "What are you doing? You want me to lose my job? Want your parents bankrupt? Want the whole family destroyed because you're selfish?" I looked straight into her eyes. "You did that long ago. I'm just turning on the light." At that moment, I heard footsteps. Trevor, my direct boss, director of design, stepped out of the elevator, holding coffee, clearly just from a meeting. He paused a few steps away, pretending to check his phone, but I knew he heard nearly everything. Mom noticed the stranger, quickly regained professional voice, stood fast enough the leather folder banged the table. "You're making a big mistake, Avery. When this comes back to hurt you, don't come running to me for help." She turned, high heels clicking on marble floor, walked out the revolving door without looking back. Trevor waited until she was gone before approaching, voice low. You okay? I heard the end. If you need, company has legal team support. Workplace harassment or anything related, just tell me. I nodded, trying to keep voice steady. Thanks. I might need it soon. He patted my shoulder lightly, then walked on. I sat back on the sofa alone, watching thick snow fall outside large glass windows. First time confronting Mom directly, without anyone interrupting, without a family party backdrop. And first time, I no longer feared her. She had revealed her true purpose, not apology, not reconciliation, just self-protection. And I had chosen to protect myself, and I wouldn't stop. Early spring that year, when Chicago's snow began melting and cherry trees outside my office window bloomed pale pink, everything started moving faster than I expected. First was an email from the consumer rights attorney I'd hired in February. His name, David Nguyen, office downtown Chicago, specialized in identity theft and elder financial abuse. He called one Tuesday afternoon. Avery, your mom's bank just opened an official internal investigation. They received reports from FTC and the 3 credit bureaus about numerous accounts linked to their employee, specifically Laura Thompson. Compliance department is reviewing every loan file she handled in the past 5 years. I asked how he knew. He chuckled lightly. They must notify victims when investigation involves identity theft. And you're not the only victim. Sure enough, a few days later, Aunt Kelly called, voice strangely excited. She and her own attorney, an old college friend, had met Grandma Ruth at the assisted living community in Carmel. Grandma, though 84 and a bit forgetful, still remembered clearly. Laura was the only one handling the house sale money. Laura brought papers to sign. Laura managed her bank account afterward. When the attorney showed her statements, large transfers without her signature, Grandma cried. I trusted her, she said, voice trembling. I never thought she'd do that to her own mother. They decided to act. Aunt Kelly and Grandma Ruth's attorney filed a civil lawsuit in Marion County Court, Indianapolis. The suit accused Laura and Mark Thompson of fraud, undue influence, breach of fiduciary duty, and unjust enrichment. They demanded full repayment of money drawn from Kelly's HELOC, from Grandma's account, plus punitive damages for intentional conduct. I didn't join as plaintiff. I chose another way. Attorney David helped draft a detailed affidavit, notarized sworn statement listing every fraudulent account in my name, attaching credit reports, timeline, emails, and FTC report. I signed before a notary at a bank near work, scanned and sent. The affidavit was submitted with Kelly and Grandma's case as supporting evidence without requiring my court appearance. I didn't want to sit in a courtroom watching Mom act. I just wanted truth officially recorded. Everything happened faster than expected. Mom's bank, a large regional with branches across Midwest, completed internal investigation in just 6 weeks. They found not just a few accounts, but a pattern. Over 10 loan files linked to Laura Thompson's relatives processed with missing original signatures, incorrect billing addresses, and internal notes like strong relationship with borrower, despite borrower stating they never met the loan officer. Compliance reported to executives, then to Indiana State Banking Regulator. In May, Mom was called to urgent meeting. Kelly heard from an old coworker. Laura was led into a glass conference room, sat facing 2 compliance officers and an outside attorney. They presented each file, asked for explanation. She tried justifying. It was family help, no bad intent. But when they pointed out forged signatures and money flowing to her and husband's personal accounts, she went silent. That weekend, Mom was fired. Official letter, termination for violation of multiple internal policies and ethical guidelines. Bank reported to Indiana Department of Financial Institutions. Mom's mortgage loan originator license suspended indefinitely pending further investigation. 23 years career, wall certificates, Employee of the Year awards, bank Christmas parties, ended with a cold email and cardboard box for personal items. News spread fast in Indianapolis finance circles. Old coworkers messaged Kelly, everyone's whispering, no one expected it from Laura. On the civil side, my parents tried fighting. They hired their own attorney, an older man from Dad's golf club.
initially planned to fight to the end, blaming family misunderstanding and verbal agreements.
But when judge denied motion to dismiss and ordered discovery, meaning submit all bank statements, taxes, large transactions past 10 years, their attorney advised settling. They had no choice. August, settlement agreement signed. Parents agreed to repay all money drawn from Aunt Kelly's HELOC and Grandma's sale proceeds, plus statutory interest. Additional damages for pain and suffering and punitive, total over $300,000. Clean and remove all fraudulent accounts from my and Kelly's credit reports. No counterclaims, no public criticism of plaintiffs. They didn't have enough cash. So the large Fisher suburban house with 3-car garage, wide backyard, family photo wall, now mostly empty nails, was listed for sale sign planted in the yard from September. They sold at a loss due to slow market, but enough for part payment. Dad sold 40% company shares to a new partner, a younger man from Ohio, not a golf buddy, but real investor. He came in with strict financial controls, all large expenses approved, no casual personal withdrawals. My dad, who prided built from nothing, now reported monthly to someone else. The new Ford F-350 Dad loved posing with was sold too. Florida trip canceled. Savings depleted. When settlement finalized, attorney David called. "It's done, Avery. Fraudulent accounts removed from your report. FICO will recover in months." I checked Credit Karma that night. Score jumped from 582 to 718 overnight. First time in years, seeing that number didn't bring fear. I didn't go to Indianapolis for the signing. I didn't need to see Mom sign with shaking hand or Dad bow head before attorneys. I only heard from Maddie, a short text. They sold the house, moving to small apartment in Fishers. Mom no longer working. Dad grumpy all day. I'm sorry for not believing you sooner. I didn't reply right away. I just saved the text in evidence folder. Not to use anymore, but to remind myself truth, though late, has its price. Everything they built with perfect appearances had collapsed, not because I sought revenge, but because what they did in darkness was finally exposed to light. And I, for the first time, felt truly free. Fall the following year, when golden leaves began falling on Wicker Park streets and Chicago prepared for another winter, I felt for the first time in my life everything was truly over. Not with a big explosion, but with the gentle silence of things repaired. My credit report now clean. FICO stable at 780, higher than before everything broke. Fraud accounts completely removed, thanks to settlement and court order. I received confirmation letters from Experian, TransUnion, Equifax, cold, professional letters, but to me, more valuable than any diploma. I printed them, pinned on the corkboard in that work corner, reminder I'd saved my own financial future. Work better than ever. The bank app redesign project I led got positive client feedback, user retention up 52%. Trevor, my boss, promoted me to senior UX designer. Raise, year-end bonus enough to pay off remaining student loan and start real emergency fund of my own. Colleagues threw small office party to celebrate, balloons and cake. A small party, but genuine, no pretending or hidden calculations. I decided to turn pain into something useful. From the first Reddit infographic, I built my own website. Simple, clean, anonymized domain, familyfinancialabuse.org. I used my UX skills to make it as accessible as possible. Neutral colors, large fonts, clear step-by-step guides. Main page had anonymized case study based on my, Aunt Kelly's, and Grandma Ruth's stories. No names, no specific locations, just timelines and common fraud patterns. Resources section, direct links to annualcreditreport.com, identitytheft.gov, CFPB complaint form, FAQ section, and anonymous contact form. I never expected it to spread so fast. In just 6 months, over 150,000 visits. Thousands of emails to the inbox I set up. Stories from across America. Sons whose dads opened cards to pay gambling debt. Daughters whose moms used SSN to buy cars. Wives whose husbands drew HELOC on joint house without knowing. Many wrote, "Thank you. I just pulled my credit report and caught it in time." Some sent screenshots of FICO rising after successful disputes. Some just one line, "You saved me from bankruptcy." I read all, replied when I had time. Not to brag, but because I knew how lonely facing your own family felt. Family relationships changed slowly, no drama. Maddie transferred schools, now teaching in a district 40 minutes from Indianapolis. She texted more, not justifying anymore, but sharing everyday things. Mischievous students, small balcony garden plans. We met a few times at the old Broad Ripple coffee shop, talked movies, recipes, avoided parents' topic at first. Gradually, she admitted, "I used to think family loyalty meant silence. Now I know it's not. We're not suddenly close like childhood, but there's new honesty. Fewer fake smiles, more comfortable silence." Aunt Kelly became the relative I called most. She sent photos of her new adopted dog, backyard veggie garden. She and Grandma Ruth now lived closer. Grandma moved to small independent apartment with settlement money. Kelly managed Grandma's finances, fully transparent this time, monthly reports. We had dinner a few times when I visited Indianapolis, laughed about old stories without fear of anyone getting angry. One November day, I received a handwritten letter, shaky handwriting envelope, Carmel postmark. Inside, Grandma Ruth's lined paper.
Dear Avery, I'm not good at writing, but I want you to know you gave me back my own life. I once thought old age meant letting children decide everything. You taught me that's not true. I grocery shop myself, paid bills myself, decide dinner tonight myself. I'm so proud of you. Thank you for not letting them make you small. Love, Grandma Ruth. I read it over and over, tears falling on the paper without realizing. I folded it, placed with clean credit reports and court confirmations. As for my parents, they lived much quieter. They rented a 2-bedroom apartment in Fisher's outskirts, basic complex with shared pool and cracked tennis court. No wide backyard, no 3-car garage. Mom tried applying finance jobs, but terminated for cause on resume, closed every door. She worked part-time supermarket cashier, green uniform, hair tied neatly.
Dad kept small company share, but now weekly meetings with new partner who controlled books tightly, no casual personal draws. He stayed grumpy, but no one soothed him anymore. They didn't call me. I didn't call them. Sometimes Maddie said, "Mom asks about you, but doesn't dare say directly." I just nodded. I didn't gloat. I just felt relief. Because finally I understood family love doesn't mean allowing exploitation. Loyalty doesn't mean silence before wrong. Protecting yourself doesn't make you a betrayer. It just makes you an adult. If you're reading this and feeling your heart stir, if there's any doubt about strange bank letters, sudden credit drops, relatives always helping manage money without showing papers, act today. Go to annualcreditreport.com, pull free reports from 3 bureaus. Look carefully at every line. Ask hard questions. Write it down if needed. Truth can hurt. It can tear apart what you thought was family. But darkness is what's truly dangerous. Light, even late, is worth turning on. And when you do, you'll see you're not alone. Thousands have walked this path, and we're waiting to help you take the next step.